The bull run hype is on, but the stars may have a plot twist. Watch this video to find out what it is and get the latest crypto astrology predictions. All right, folks, in this video, we're going to do three things. We're going to look at where this bull cycle is going to go next, what could potentially happen between now and all of us getting catapulted into Valhalla. And we're going to look at number two, at where this bull run is going to in the big picture. Like, what can it accomplish when we look at it as a whole? We're going to have some thoughts on that based on the astrology. And number three, I'm also going to give you some nuggets on a couple of altcoins that have some interesting perspectives on them. So that's what we're doing in this video. So make sure to watch it until the end. And if you haven't done so yet, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell and all of that. Also like the video and all of that. Okay, so the parabolic part of the bull run has started. It's on. We're all flying right now. And if you haven't been in a bull run before, it's going to be wild and new territory and new experience. If you have been in a bull run before, then you know what it's like. You wake up to 30%, 40%, rises, and it just keeps going on, and everybody starts getting euphoric. Everybody comes on board, and you have to be really careful in that time, exactly when everybody starts to lose their mind. For me, it's my third bull run. The first one, I got to say, though, I was not, in it. I was doing other things back then. I was investing in media and other ventures, and people kept coming to me, some of these nerdy people, and they just kind of, we just made a 5x, a 7x this year on our investment. I'm like, what? I'm in the wrong business. I gotta go into crypto. That was in 2017. I think a lot of people started getting on board in 2017, and then the next one in 2021. We were all kind of caught off guard. It went up, and everybody was expecting the 100K to 200K, and we lost the opportunity to drop off. If you weren't amongst the people, if you knew when to get out, when to secure your bag, then kudos to you. Most people didn't know. Most people missed it. They just missed it. You just rode the euphoria, and then somehow it kind of petered out, and we were all expecting this to be a correction, but it wasn't. It was over. Right? And then came the bear market. And at that point, I didn't yet use the astrology to have a very kind of, systematic understanding of the markets. I was using astrology for personal development, obviously, for many, many years, but not for the markets. And that has changed now in the years, past years. I've developed an astrology-based, financial astrology-based theory that allows us to really get an understanding of where things are going and what the overall collective consciousness feeling of the cycles and patterns are, which influence the markets, specifically the crypto markets. And so far, this theory has been spotless, has been on point in the way that I've presented it here on this channel. So far, we've predicted here a local cycle top for April, which happened in March, pretty close to when it was predicted for. And then that was the longer phase when we were stagnating and going sideways. And then on this channel, we predicted that from early September, it would start to go upward. The upward movement would start again. And this is what happened. It was early September, exactly when we started the upward movement that we're in right now. Let's look at the aspects and let's look at the factors that flow into this so we get a better grip and a better understanding. Okay, so first, let's just look at the macro factors that are impacting what's happening here. So the first one, obviously, let me actually take out the planets and just make it with the outer planets. It's going to be easier here to see, right? If we just have the outer planets. So the first big factor, that we've talked about a lot is what? Is the talent triangle, right? I'm just doing this systematically so you can see the hypothesis that we are following here, right? So you're going to see here the talent triangle, right? This has been constellated since when? Since September, right? It started kind of, it was coming into aspect already over summer, but it had started to get a really close and good aspect figure in September, right? That's when it kind of had a first real hit, right? So this is the first thing. And what is this doing? What is it doing? Well, it stays in aspect still until November, until end of November, right? And then kind of it moves out of aspect, right? So by December, January, it's out of aspect. And then what happens later? It comes back again, this talent triangle. It comes back again in June and July, right? You see this in June, July of 2025. And this time even stronger and more perfect, right? Because they're all changing signs, all these planets, right? So the first one, the first hit in 24 is a prep, and this one is the real thing, right? Is where it kind of like develops its full impact. And what did we say about this aspect figure? It stands for a shift into the higher level of consciousness, right? This is why it's to do with mystical, psychic powers and kind of, changing the worldviews and the other stuff that I've been talking about on this channel. But also on the technical level, it stands for a new worldview that translates itself into new global systems. On the monetary level, completely new monetary systems, right? Obviously, of which crypto is the big pioneer, right? Is the big kind of leader, right? The leading horse in that race, so to speak, right? The other one being CBDC, which I'm going to come back to in a bit after when we look at how things could go differently as well. So we have these two phases. We have the phase 24, right? September to November 24, when this is an aspect. And then we have the other phase in June, July, summer 25, when it's at its peak, right? And around these phases, starting, when this comes into place, we're going to expect that the world shifts, the worldviews start to shift, right? The scientific paradigms, how people are understanding reality, but also social and economic paradigms start to rapidly shift. We go into a new age, basically, during this time, right? And you're going to see it's very, makes perfect sense that the first leg up of this parabolic run of this bull cycle started in the first talent triangle, in this first phase, right? So now what happens after? And what's going to be the end game for this? The end game, when we are in summer 25, right? In summer 25, we should be seeing an absolutely massive global adoption. Absolutely massive, right? Because it's basically, there's a couple of factors here. That, aspect figure comes into play perfectly. And then Uranus is going to be on the first degree of Gemini, which is a fixed star called ALTCOIN. It's here. It's the most powerful, one of the most powerful fixed stars in astrology, right? It gives the most visibility. It gives the highest level of visibility to whichever planet is on it. And we're going to have Uranus on there, right? Uranus, and my thesis, the core of my thesis is obviously Uranus and Aquarius are representative for crypto. So this is going to be a global breakthrough, massive adoption, right? Massive global breakthrough of alternate means of payment and exchange. Payment and exchange is obviously Gemini, right? And Uranus is technological revolution, stands for technological revolution, empowered by this triangle, right? So are we going to be at what? 250K, 500K Bitcoin? Are we going to be at 15, 14 trillion dollar, 18 trillion dollar total market cap for the crypto market? It's all possible. That would kind of be consistent with this image of this globe, of this massive shift. However, there's also the alternative, or the let's say the contender of CBDCs, right? The CBDCs which are going to be competing with crypto. And the parties that want CBDCs to be introduced, they don't have an interest in crypto just infinitely going through the roof. They want there to be a transition and then into CBDCs, which is why the main reasons why it's not just purely a good thing that BlackRock and Vanguard and all these big players, these kind of mega corporations, globalist mega corporations, that they're starting to own more and more and more of Bitcoin, right? This is not a good thing necessarily for the crypto markets, because their interest may not be, even though they hold the asset, their interest may not be to see this asset infinitely rise. What's going to happen next? In order to see that, we should have a look at the planets, all the planets, not just the outer planets now. We need to have a more granular picture, a more granular idea of where we're going, okay? So the granular idea, we're going to get it with all the planets back in play, right? So we are here right now. We are in November, early in November, right? And what's happening here? I'm going to go like slowly, right? We're going to go slowly. So because this is a crazy time that we're entering into now. Every day you wake up and the prices are just shooting through the roof. It's starting. It looks like alt season is starting. Real alt season is starting as well, right? And in this time, so what can we expect here? Where is this going to? What's the energy right now? Well, we've got Mars in Leo, right? Which is great. Mars in Leo is, investors are going to be very flashy, right? Investors like to be flashy with Mars in Leo. They like to be seen. They like to make a big splash. They like to, right, make big bets and then celebrate big, right? And then be seen for that. And that's kind of backed as well up with the Mercury currently being in Sagittarius. This is thinking big, right? People are thinking big. Thinking big, making big long-term, having long-term vision. That's Mercury in Sagittarius. So both of those are very conducive right now for this run and for this massive push that's happening, right? And then what happens? Towards the end of November, we're going to have a retrograde starting. Mercury starts to go retro. A lot of people are going to come and revisit their positions and reorganize their portfolios and their strategies, maybe rethink some of the big bets that they're doing when Mercury retrograde starts. Definitely you're going to see that. This could hamper growth a little bit. I'm not saying every time you got Mercury retrograde. I'm not sure if that's the case. I haven't seen that correlation play out, but definitely in this case, this can hamper growth somewhat, right? It can just, but if the upward momentum is strong, and it is going to be, right, in this kind of situation that we're seeing, that's on its own, it doesn't do anything much, right, to stop things. Then you have Mars as well going retrograde. Mars goes retrograde as well in December, right? So this is some backward momentum. We have both of them, for some time, for a brief while, both of them going backward. However, this is kind of counteracted by the fact that from December, in the beginning of December, just when Mercury goes retrograde, you have here Pluto and Venus entering into Aquarius. Okay, and what did we say? Aquarius is the ruler of Uranus and is the ruler of crypto, right? Crypto energy. So this means that you're going to have powerful money interests, Venus and Pluto, powerful money interests, right? Power, Pluto, Venus, money, entering into crypto in early December, right? Like big investors, massive big investors are going to start to enter. They're already every day entering, but you're going to have much larger ones still, right? States potentially, like large states are going to enter into or these vast kind of pension funds, institutional investors going to be entering, large money interests going to be entering into crypto in December. So that's good. That's going to sustain the momentum, definitely, right? Upward. And then you have, as that kind of peters out, you have shortly after, you have the sun entering into Uranus. Sun is entering here into Uranus, right? In the end of January. And then for the rest of February, sun is in Uranus, which means what? Sun is where consciousness is, which means that public attention and consciousness is going to go towards crypto. And then Mercury comes in here too. Yeah, you see both of them. All the way till mid-February, till February 15th, we have this going on, a lot of good constellations for crypto, right? And you can see that obviously in the fact that in February, crypto always does well. February is one of the best months for crypto, right? When you look at all the months, then February, I think, is third or fourth best month always, right? Because every February, the sun is in Aquarius. There's a regularity, there's a cosmic regularity, right? Every February, people are more thinking about, innovation and technological changes, right? This is just the cosmic rhythm that we're living, right? So now this is a good time, right? What do we say? It's a good time. This is really good constellations for continuous growth of this cycle, of this bull cycle from now all the way till mid-February. However, and here is the caveat that I talked about, right? Here's the caveat that I presented to you as my hypothesis, right? And let me actually add to this too. This is a hypothesis, right? This is not a vision that I had. It's not like, I may have, and I do have visions and downloads on many things. If that's the case, I'm going to tell you. This is not. This is an analysis, is a hypothesis that's based on the astrological cycles and its probabilities, right? There are probabilities involved. So what is this hypothesis? This hypothesis is that in this phase from November to April, we could see, it's very, very likely, that we could see some geostrategic, geopolitical tensions escalate, right? And these geopolitical tensions, when they escalate, they could act as a black swan event. As a black swan event, right? A black swan is this kind of unpredictable or like this big kind of horrible thing that happens where everybody then goes, oh, you know, this throws everything out of order, right? This kind of forces us to reevaluate everything. And black swans, the idea is that you cannot predict them, but you can be prepared for them. But actually, if you know cycles and if you know astrology, you know that you can know that certain phases are more prone to have those black swans. So you can actually envisage, you know, and have some probabilities attached to black swans, right? And this is the case with our cycles that we're going into here, because we're going to have what? It starts here in November. Actually, right now, where we are, right? Right now, beginning of November, mid-November, we have this cycle, right? We have this cycle here, which is a what? Which is a opposition. I can't find here my way of noting this, denoting this for you. Okay, there it is. So, right, it's an opposition between Mars and Pluto, and this is in the sky for a long time. And as I have shown in other videos, it triggers every major geostrategic crisis zone in the world. It triggers Russia, Ukraine. It triggers North Korea directly. Kim Jong-un is directly triggered by this personally, right? For 4 or 5 months. It triggers as well Iran and Israel. All of them are triggered by this exact constellation, right? So if you have these three positions, all of them are currently in a kind of honeymoon phase for the second Trump admin, right? Even though some of them are, you know, in reality, all of them are hoping that things improve now. All of them, even the adversaries, right? All the adversaries, they're like, okay, let's see what's happening. You know, maybe things can improve, right? We don't need to go. So things are being kept, you know, you don't see much escalation, but there are already some signs here and there. So we'll talk about this in other videos, in geostrategic, geopolitical videos, what's happening in the world. There are some signs here and there that things could go off, right? Could go off. And if things go off in an unexpected way, right? Major escalation. Imagine major escalation in one of these theaters, right? Larger than you can expect right now, larger than anything we've seen so far, right? And this could happen when? All the time from now. Well, God forbid, it should not happen. We should be happy if it doesn't, but it's a possibility. That's the point. It's an archetypal possibility. The potential is there. The potential is there, right? And it's very clear and very strong, right? So it's like when you have a hard transit, somebody has a very hard transit, right? And the hard transit hits their, let's say they have a Mars transit on their sun or on their moon, right? And it comes together with a couple of other hard aspects and difficult aspects. You're gonna, right? It doesn't mean this person is gonna experience something extremely negative, but it depends on their maturity, how they handle it, right? They could turn it into a positive development if they're very mature, if they can handle the lessons, if they can grow with it. Otherwise, if they don't, they're going to have the harsh experiences. Same goes for humanity as a whole. So how advanced are we as humanity as a whole, right? Are we advanced enough to manage this energy without having massive major escalations? Because if they happen, right? If they happen, they're going to happen when? Either now, exactly now, November, you see here, November to end of December. That's when they're constellated, right? And if it happens here, November to like mid-November to end of December, right? This would be bad because this is very early. It doesn't give us much time to grow. The markets, right? It wouldn't have much time to grow. If it happens anytime now, before the beginning of the new year, right? And then what happens? They go out of aspect. They go out of aspect, right? Completely out of aspect. And, right, not completely, but, you know, far enough. By March, you know, they're out of aspect. February, you can see here, Mars came all the way back, is not anymore in a direct opposition, right? They go out of aspect and then they come back, okay? They come back and now they're in aspect again. They're in opposition again. When? In April, right? In April. April, they're in direct opposition again, right? Okay. And oftentimes when you have a transit like this that repeats because of retrograde motion, the first hit is where you're going to see what can potentially happen, what can go wrong. And then the second hit, if either you have learned the lessons you've integrated, or it can get worse if you haven't learned. It can just really break out, right? And this is what we're seeing right now. So if we're lucky, well, in the best case, we have learned enough as humanity to avoid the escalation, right? That's a probability. However, the clear signs exist in the astrology that there might be a massive escalation, right? If we're lucky, not in the November to December phase, but in April, because at least that way the markets have a lot of time to grow still. If it happens in the November to December, if it's a big escalation, that's not just a small correction. During a bull run, you're going to have a correction, a 30%, 20% correction. But if you have a black swan, that's different. That's completely different, right? And what can we look at as a comparison? So if really the escalation were to happen in either November, December, or in April 25, it could be similar. The situation could be similar to what we saw in the 2021 bull run, right? The 2021 bull run had two cycle tops, right? There was two cycles. There was one early cycle top in early 21. And then there was a black swan event. In that case, it was, governments going and cracking down China, closing all the miners, going against all the miners. And this really was a black swan event, unexpected event. And this threw down the entire cycle. And then you had the second top, right? The second top, which was towards the end of the year in 2021. So you had two tops in that cycle interrupted by this phase, by this kind of in-between phase, right? So this would be a very possible and likely scenario for us, right? If there is this massive geopolitical escalation, black swan event that throws down the market heavy, not just like a typical normal bull run correction. So this is the hypothesis, right? This is the hypothesis. It's not like, as some people had misunderstood, they had said, oh, you said that nothing will happen until summer 25. No, that's not, obviously not what I said, right? You need to be like, we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention here, right? And this knowledge, well, what are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to make your own plans and your own decisions, obviously, and take it into account. Take it into account that it's a possibility. You can plan your strategies with various eventualities in mind. That's what this information is useful for. Now, at this point, let me remind you to hit the subscription button if you haven't done that yet, and the notification bell to make sure you get all of these videos. Just let me tell you, you will not just get crypto videos on here, because I'm also doing a lot of other things to elevate your consciousness and bring you to the next level in the mind and spirit and other domains of life. But crypto is part of the game, for anybody who wants to live independently and accomplish a level of sovereignty, both spiritual and personal and financial sovereignty. We can work on that as well if you are interested in developing better strategies for your own development, for your own both personal and financial holistic development. You can find below in the notifications, in the comments, rather, in the comments below. Not the comments, not the notifications. You can find it in the what? In the descriptions. In the descriptions below, you can find the links to consultations that you can book with me, where we can work on your holistic development strategies. Where should you move? How should you time things? What should you focus on most in the current phase? All of these things, astrology is a tremendously useful tool to arrange and align those decisions. Now let's get on and move to the next section where we talk about the altcoins. The altcoins. Now, a lot of people I know had asked me in the comments in the previous videos, can you do this altcoin? Can you do that altcoin? Can we look at all of these? And there is an issue here with the altcoins that I have to share with you, which is that a lot of the founders in the crypto space, they don't share their birth details, right? They don't share, it's almost impossible to find their birth details. And when you want to look at an asset, specific asset, it's not just enough to look at the asset because, you know, in crypto, we don't have a company typically. We have like an asset chart, which is the genesis chart of the coin. Then we have foundation charts, helpful if you have those, right? When was the foundation founded? But on its own, it's not enough because the asset chart is just when it was first traded. It's not really the company or the project as a whole. It's just when it was first traded on a specific exchange. It's only limited, has limited usefulness in my experience, right? The foundation chart could be better, but even that, it's not, okay, what does it mean Solana foundation next year is gonna have these problems? Does that mean Solana as an asset is not gonna do well? Not necessarily, right? It doesn't translate directly. So you need the founder's chart. The founder's chart is the most useful, most insightful way to understand what's going to happen to this asset. That's almost every time you're going to see this asset goes up, this asset gets into trouble, the founder, you're going to see it reflected in the chart of the founder, right? So we don't have the details for a lot of these projects that I was going to do, Theta, Chainlink, Superverse, right? Atom, I would like to do, right? There's a lot of other projects that I would like to do, but I don't have the founder's details. If you have them, please share them. Please share them, right? If you just know them from somewhere, please share them in the comments below, right? So that we can look at other projects as well, right? So now that being said, we're going to look at, there is some info that I do have, some insights that I do have, and it's 3 projects. One is on ASI, Artificial Superintelligence, right? Which is the projects of AGIX and Fetch AI and Ocean Protocol. They came together, right? And XRP, and the other one is AVAX Avalanche, right? These 3, we have some insights on them. So let me share that with you, and you know, you can use that in designing your thoughts and your strategy as you master this bull cycle, right? Where some of these coins are probably going to completely rip it, right? So I mean, keep this in mind, what I was saying before. Where is this bull run going to? Right? This bull run, it's going to go to massive adoption, massive adoption, right? That's what you can see in the charts for, you know, in the big constellation, when we look at the big constellation of the year. So massive adoption, and I'll get to the coins that I just mentioned. What does that mean? It means, well, it means that some of these layer 1s, right? Maybe some of the layer 2s that have applications galore, right? For industries, for industrial transformation, they are going to, a couple of them are going to get absolutely humongously huge, right? So whether that's NFTs for media applications or healthcare or tokenization of real estate or supply chains, provenance in supply chains, right? Or any of the other like major applications that exist, you know, in the industrial space, IP, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So there's going to be coins or protocols like DOT, you know, or like XRP and so on that have these capabilities, and that will be able to really cash in on the massive adoption that potentially is going to happen in 2025, right? So Charles Hoskinson wants to tell you that it's going to be ADA that takes over the entire market. I have my doubts. I presented those in a previous video, but actually don't think that he was called on by Trump to be an advisor for the new admin, as he said he was. But you know, that to the side, let's look at the insights that we actually do have for these projects, right? So the first one I'm going to share is AVAX, right? For AVAX, Emin Gün Sirer, right? The founder and the scientist who's behind this, he has right now a conjunction. Jupiter is going over his Mercury right now, right? And he is in talks. What does it stand for? This stands for having very fruitful, expansive business talks and business communications, right? At the same time, Uranus is still here on the sun, right, for a last hit. And in this time, right, there's been announced there, he's talking to some major players. He's talking to BlackRock right now for some massive adoption, integration of AVAX into their systems, right? They have they have trillions and trillions of dollars of assets that they need to manage, and they want to have, you know, transparency, and they want to see the assets. They want to have complete insight into the assets. They want to have trustless infrastructures for the assets, and all of this, they need a functioning smart chain, smart contract chain, right? So you can see here, and then it comes back in April where it hits again his sun, Uranus, like completely life-changing events are going to happen, and then Jupiter comes back on his Mercury, right? So it could be that this phase, right, starting from now till April, right, this could be life-changing deals that he makes, life-changing deals. His chart is showing life-changing deals from now till April, right? So now you see what I mean when I say we need the founder's chart. The founder chart tells us, okay, AVAX, I can see this in the AVAX and Avalanche charts as well, right? But it gives me much more certainty if I can see it in the founder's chart, if I can see in the founder's chart. Same thing, similar thing with the two main people now behind the ASI, the ASI coin, right? ASI is so there's this one, it's AJAX, is Ben Goertzel, right? Ben Goertzel from Singularity. And Ben Goertzel, he's just a great scientist and a great thinker as well, but he's going to have, so, very happy for him if this pans out, but he's going to have here during this cycle, he's going to have Jupiter, opposing his Venus when in May 25, right? In May 25, and hitting all of this stuff here, right? All of this, he has like a very interesting chart. There's a whole other thing to look at. He's also he understands psychic, he understands psychic powers and higher consciousness abilities and all of these things. He's totally into this stuff. But interestingly, well, for him, he has a transit coming up, which indicates big money, right? Vast kind of expansion of your big payout, like huge payout, right? Huge payout. And then similarly, that same thing happens for Humayun Sheikh. Humayun Sheikh, who is the main person behind Fetch AI, right? So Fetch AI, he has the same Jupiter opposite Venus, right? Transit in July 25, right? July 25. So followed shortly after each other, both of them have this transit, right? So this is a sign that their project is probably going to do extremely well, right? In this bull run, extremely well, right? And then there's another one, which is XRP. So XRP, if we look at the XRP, is an interesting case here. You see, if you look at XRP's chart, right? This is Ripple Labs. Ripple Labs, the organization which brought XRP into being, they have in their chart, there is a square of Mercury to Pluto, right? What does it stand for? Mercury square Pluto stands for legal battles, right? Legal battles. It's in their chart. It's in their chart. It's like they're destined to have constant legal battles, right? With this organization. They're battling, fighting, Moon with Mars, right? Moon with Mars, and then, that square, battling against the powers that be, against whatever, against kind of regulators mostly, right? Regulators, the SEC and so on. And they're fighting these legal battles in some way for the larger crypto space, whether it's a security or not, and so on. And then you have in the coming year this same Mercury, after all of these battles, it finally gets a perfect integration and perfect hit by Uranus and Pluto, which both of them are obviously trine to each other. This is world-changing structures, changing the global structures, and they're both hitting then in a trine the Mercury, right? The natal Mercury of Ripple in 25. So global world-changing structures, changing the structures of the world, now empowered by Ripple, right? And empowering as opposed to being in a battle with, right? So it started with the square, and then this many years later, right? 13 years later, you go into the trine here, and then the trine comes here from both sides. So this is a very powerful constellation, very powerful constellation. And I've seen, matching constellations for Chris Larson here as well for that time. And there are a couple of difficulties here as well with the XRP, with the Genesis chart, where the Genesis chart shows this confusion that's going to be in the world in 25, 26. This is going to impact directly the the coin, and you see here, even in the XRP Genesis, you have Pluto with Sun, another marker for battles and battles of wills, right? Legal battles, battles of wills, all of this is in their chart multiple times, right? But in total, put this together. So this looks really, really promising for XRP for 25 by 25 to have first overcome the legal battles and second to play an important role in the global transformation of structures, of global economic structures, right? What could that be? It could be BRICS. It's been rumored already that the BRICS system, payment system that they want to build, to replace SWIFT, they want to replace a system where they can exchange seamlessly all of their currencies, right? The real and the ruble and the rupee and so on. They can all exchange. They're going to need an infrastructure for that, and the infrastructure for that has been rumored to be XRP potentially, or be Ripple, right? And for Ripple to provide it. And this, what I just showed you, it completely backs that up. So XRP by 25, overcoming the legal battles and playing a major role in establishing new structures in the world, right? Establishing new economic structures. This could mean, like, obviously, absolutely massive outcomes for the XRP believers, right? Who have been holding on to their at times stable coin like bags, right? So that being said, this is a couple of insights from some altcoins that I could share with you. Let's not make this video too long. Make sure to, again, to like this video as well, and be on here, be with me, be with us here in this emerging community for the journey. We're going to do much more in future. Take care of yourself for now. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next, and be blessed.